Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
So let me welcome Dr. Nick Weaver again from Berkeley ICSI Institute. Nick's group and the UCSD research group headed by Stefan Savage and Jeff Walker have been done a lot of high impact work uncovering the underground economy. And today, Nick, in the second talk that he's giving today, he's graciously offering giving 2 talks in a row. And in the second talk, he's going to talk about serendipity and spam. Nick, please.
Thank you very much. This is also my first time giving this talk, so I hope it works out well. And the title is because this is about 2 papers, the second of which was entirely random lucky discoveries out of the first one, out of the process of doing one. So first of all, acknowledgments. I'm just one piece in a large joint work between ICSI and UC Berkeley. We are such a big group that we actually have a mission patch, which I will explain. This is, of course, in Russian. It means measure 7 times, cut 3 times. The normal saying is cut once, but we tried to write the paper 3 times. We're the Seaside Trajectory Project. Our database server is Mastodon with Seaside North, Seaside South. This being cyber warfare mission patch, you must have lightning bolts that coincidentally spell out www. There's the trajectory, which cuts this to spell out WIN. And oh, these were the banks that we'll get to later. And around is the...
Why Russian? Too Russian.
Because these the affiliate programs are Russian. And
Mastodon tie-in?
what?
What was the Mastodon tie-in?
That's the name of our database server.
Oh.
Which admittedly we abused. And so this is a project of 15 people. This is the author list of the first trajectory paper. When in doubt, any work I'm going to talk about is done by one of these 15 people that's probably not the person in red there. Oh, and being unfortunately computer science, it's 14 out of 15 authors are male. So these Viagra pills are male and 1 female co-author. So there's a lot of symbolism in our mission patch.
Who designed that?
Kirill and Christian. This is a big project with a lot of sponsorship from the NSF and the Office of Naval Research, plus a lot of in-kind sponsorship from Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, Cisco, HP, UCSD, CNS, and spam feeds that shall not be named. And all opinions are those of the presenter. So our group and everybody else has focused a huge amount on how spam works, how botnets generate spam, how botmasters infect system, how they control their bots, botnet milking to fight spam. People have spent tons of money and time and effort fighting spam. And this is all before it gets to the address. But let's face it, spam exists for one purpose, to make money. If you talk to people who are legitimate spammers, well, they call it unsolicited commercial email. That's the term you use when you don't want to insult the people who spam for a living. The key being commercial. So we focused on the largest categories of commercial sales. We focused on pharmaceuticals, Viagra and all that stuff. We focused on replica, fake Rolexes and other luxury goods. And we focused on downloadable OEM software. Fun stuff. All of these are based on the model of the user has to click on the spam in order to order the product for the spammer to make any money. And all these products are driven by what are called affiliate networks. The spammer doesn't run the web store, or basically the guy doing the spam is divorced from the guy who's running the infrastructure and fulfilling payment. So that these are all, I don't have to spam and run a storefront. I can just spam. We did not analyze 419 spam because, well, there's plenty of people who do that for fun. The 419 eater stories are amazingly amusing. We avoided pornography for obvious reasons of not getting into trouble. And we avoided gambling-related spam because that seems to be being attacked already through the credit card network. So what do I mean by affiliate program? Well, this is RX Promotions ad page for people who want to become a spammer. They provide the web storefront and all this stuff. And fortunately, Kirill reads Russian, and so is because he's native Russian. He does a much better job than Google Translate. And some of the highlights are up to 60% commission. So if I, as a spammer, drive somebody who buys $100 worth of goods from the storefront, I get $60. Cool. Payout on demand. As soon as the payment comes, it gets transferred as web money into my account, and I get the money right away. Low prices. My storefront would be competitive. I open my own store without having to do all the messy stuff of opening the store, processing credit cards, order fulfillment, anything else. Detailed statistics on how good my spam is working. Contests.
There was 15% below the 60%. What did it say? Or?
I'm not sure, as I don't read Russian.
Referadim.
I can't. The font is horrible.
Yeah.
Maybe
But something is up to 15, not
Yeah.
60.
The 60% is the commission. The 15% might be if you refer other people as spammers.
It refers to you.
What?
I think it says refers.
Yeah.
But I can't see the colors.
Okay.
Yeah. So contests, parties. RX Promotions is notorious for having the gold brick party where they give the best spammer a gold brick, and there's lots of mostly naked women running around. Free hosting. You don't actually have to do any web hosting. You just provide the spam. And rich promo materials for you to use in the spam. Seems like a very attractive model if you want to actually be a spammer. You don't actually have to do any work. These guys do all the work for you. But we wanted to understand these guys. We wanted to understand all the stuff that happens after the click. The basic division is the spammer handles up to the point where the user clicks on the link in the URL in the mail, and then after that, it's handled by the affiliate program. So what's their infrastructure needed to support the commercial website? How does payment processing work to collect payments and ship? Because one thing that you might find surprising is these guys actually ship stuff. Because let's face it, ripping off people's credit cards are cheap. If you want to make $100 off somebody, you got to actually deliver the goods, because otherwise they'll call their credit card company and get their money back. And along the way, we just happened to discover how big the market was. Good estimates of how much revenue these affiliate programs are bringing in, and what are the customers and what do they buy. So that's the serendipity part. So let's start out with an actual spam message. Viagra official site to medshopnerx.ru. The user clicks on it, and now this is where the affiliate program's magic happens. Well, to start with, it has to do a DNS lookup, which goes to a DNS registrar, in this case, the Russian registrar. Goes to the actual A-record DNS server, which in this case was out in China. It then gets HTTP GET to a web proxy server that goes back to the actual affiliate program, which in this case is Pharmacy Express in Russia, which delivers the happy fun page with the lovely female doctor on it. I've seen these pages way too often with the ads full of Viagra and Cialis and the like. But even then, this hasn't made the spammers or the affiliate program a dime. They only make money if the following step goes: the user decides to purchase, in which case the user's payment puts in the information. It pays through Azerbaijan Bank, Merchant Bank in Azerbaijan, with payment coming from the guy's bank in the US, who contracts with some manufacturer in India, or somebody who contracts with the manufacturer in India, to drop ship a package that gets sent to the user. All these moving parts have to happen, or the spammers can't make money. And so we wanted to understand this whole chain, the whole trajectory of a spam. So we started with about 1 billion URLs. So we had a whole bunch of feeds that we all collected, and we isolated the URLs, 969 million distinct URLs representing 17 million domains.
Verified spam feeds or just probably spam feeds?
There's a various set of spam feeds. Some are like MX honeypots, so everything is bogus. Like one that I think we can talk about is a domain name that's used by a lot of people for test bogus things, so any mail is bogus. Some are seeded account honeypots from different vendors where they put web addresses on the web and get data back. Some are human-identified spam. This can have false positives in it. And some feeds are actually we generated internally by running bots. And anything a bot tells you is spam. So, hey, that's a really good, clean spam feed. And we reduced all of them to just URLs, because we were not interested in message bodies and contents and everything else. We just wanted the URLs. And we also ignored spam that was like image spam, where the image was in the URL was in the image, because who's going to type that stuff? That's not very good spam. So then we started the crawling process. And the crawling process, I wrote some of the DNS library used by the crawler. But it ended up being huge because we visited 3.5 million domains, but these 3.5 million domains represented 950 million of the URLs covered. So we biased towards domains that were seen in multiple URLs. So this helped somewhat on the false positive problem. So the DNS crawler crawled queries each domain multiple times until they converge. So fast flux, you just keep asking. It also queried domains daily for a week because, well, spammer infrastructure changes a lot. And then the web crawler was instrumented Firefox running in a cluster with 100 copies of Firefox per node. And the reason why we had to run Firefox is A, we wanted a real web browser with real JavaScript so that anything that was detect the user being a crawler wouldn't detect it. Also, they have these redirection changes. The first page you get is not the page that renders. You have 302 redirects, you have meta refreshes, you have JavaScript, all stuff that the browser happily follows. So you just want to go to the final page. And we actually captured two things: the page document model, so the actual page HTML, and as well as an image of the page. And this was very useful in the clustering process because a lot of us did participation in the manual clustering, and looking at the screenshots, it's instantly clear when some guys are the same. It prioritized crawling for new domains, so quit repeat. And this allowed us to map the technical resources, the DNS and HTTP and domain name registration infrastructure. And I'll spare you the details of the paper, but the conclusion is trying to do whack-a-mole here, give up. It's too wide a set of resources, too easy for them to change, too volatile. So technical manipulation, technical interventions at both the DNS and the web level are probably a lost cause. You can try, it'll make you feel good, but we aren't going to because we're lazy.
So you run 100 processes of the Firefox browser in a single node?
Yes.
So that's kind of a lot.
Yes. That was, that was not me, that was somebody else. Remember, 15 people, I didn't actually do the crawling on. But they had to customize Firefox. They stripped it down. They did a custom plugin for screen capture. So there was a fair amount of infrastructure magic. Part of the reason why this is a 15-person paper is this is our particle physics paper. We have a lot of people doing a lot of different moving parts. And as I said, most of the stuff is different people. Me, I did the DNS library because we needed a Python. I had a Python library from Nettalyzer that allows asynchronous DNS lookups in Python that actually works really well when you want to crawl 2 million domains in the space of a couple of days. Then we did clustering and tagging. So we got all these lovely images. These are actual screenshots. Separate them out into clusters, and then tag the clusters by which program it was. So like Stefan and Kirill did a lot of reading of Russian sites, finding the canonical examples for given vendors.
These are images, though, right? So you did.
We also captured the DOMs. So we captured the HTML on the page.
So that's what you're indexing. That's what you're using.
That's what we're clustering on the DOMs and then building tags on the DOMs. But we display them as images because it's a lot easier for us to work with. So this allowed us to cover 38% of the total volume of URLs were from one of 30 identified affiliate programs. So this is excluding all the other categories of spam. Still, 40% of the volume is specifically the stuff we were interested in.
So you went through and clustered and tagged all the stuff as either one of the 30 affiliate programs or not relevant?
Yes.
Okay.
So out of your 915 million URLs you visited, you only clustered a third of them? Is that because only a third were clusterable? Or?
No, these were clustered and tagged with specific affiliate programs. So these were identified the actual actors behind the program.
So is this saying that 62% you couldn't find an affiliate?
Or it was often in the categories we weren't interested in. Gambling, porn, random Chinese companies offering their animation services. You've got all sorts of long tail of spam we weren't looking at. So like during the clustering process, that's when we excluded the porn, gambling, and others at this step. So that other 60% can be gambling, can be the porn, etc. We don't want to look at porn. It's not as interesting. We've manually validated the clusters, and then the tagging was a manual process, and this involved a lot of us, including me. I did a lot of this, where the goal was to examine the page source to create regular expressions which identify individual programs rather than storefronts. So like a given affiliate program might have 6 or 7 different looking storefronts that look totally different, but are actually the same in the infrastructure underneath.
You couldn't automate the tagging?
No, because we keyed in on, once we developed the tags, it was an automated process, but creating the tags was manual examination, because it was looking for implementation glitches and fingerprints. So I will give you a concrete example. So, but basically, these guys are lazy. Why do a totally different set of HTML for a different storefront when you can just change a little CSS, change the images directory, and call it good? So let's actually look at an example. This is Eva pharmacy page. This actually got sent into my mailbox a couple of days ago. I'm sick of looking at her. She just... I've seen this page way too many times. And I specifically did a lot of work on the Eva page, and there were 2 tags of interest. The first of all, they had this convention where they'd have image source, a large hexadecimal string of about 30 characters, I think it looks like an MD5 sum, .gif, and then what looked to be sort of a counter. This is an oddball convention. No other online pharmacy did this, but they did, with the convention of this appended thing. One of the other online pharmacies did a tracker tag that was just .gif, no appended. This is oddball. We aren't sure why we do this, but we think it has to do with the hosting infrastructure. So if you do a system where you have caches, this acts as a cache bust, so you end up getting your proxy ends up going back to your original thing, and this gives you a hit counter, basically.
You don't think it's tagging you so they know which botnet it came from?
No, because it changes with every page load, at least as far as we know. So we think it's tracking for a hit counter. It could be encoding information back. It's hard to tell. The other thing that was interesting on Eva is they were cheap. For a lot of Eva sites, they didn't bother hosting their own images. Instead, they'd go all over the world, compromise web servers, and have their page randomly select 5 web servers where they put something on port 8080 that actually served up the images. This cuts their bandwidth bill in half, because about half of the page load is all the various little images. A large fraction use this convention, but not all of them. Even the ones that don't, well, you can key in on sort of the template structure. So images CHCM, Canadian Healthcare and Mall. That's theirs. So images CHCM logo.gif says that this is an Eva page using the CHCM template. On one hand, this saves 50% of their bandwidth. On the other hand, it makes Eva page loads often bad because sometimes these systems are down or they're 2 seconds away latency-wise. They stopped it in January but have started up again. I don't know why they do this. So these are third-party web servers running Nginx proxy caches. If anybody's good at decrypting binary blobs, we know the control query to these. You ask for style.css or something like that, and it sends you a big binary blob that may give internal statistics, but we have no clue because we don't have a binary that's actual. So if anybody's really good at looking at random strings of bits and seeing patterns, please talk to me. We gave up. But now that we have this, and now that we've identified the actual 30 affiliate programs that comprise 40% of the spam we've seen, and when I say 40% of all spam, it's almost all of the spam of interest. So this is basically 95% plus of all the Viagra, 95% plus of the software, 95% plus of the replicas. Well, we identify the programs. Now we start purchasing and see what we get. So during the initial survey, it was 120 purchases attempted, $80 median purchase, 56 were successful, as in build, product, delivered. They have to deliver product because otherwise they get chargebacks. Almost all of the unsuccessful purchases were the purchase never got charged because, well, one of the things we discovered is that the spammers have fraud problems. And therefore, they're actually very fussy about actually shipping to valid addresses, to having a valid phone number that they can call up, that the email address is valid, that the zip code on the credit card matches the zip code on the billing address of the credit card as the shipping address of the product. They have all the fraud problems that a normal merchant has, and then some, because hell, they're selling Viagra, they're going to get ripped off. So this is why our initial orders, we had so many problems with unsuccessful orders. In terms of purchasing, we generally purchased legal to us items, over-the-counter drugs. We basically were the only people who would buy Zyrtec from these guys. I was used as a mule address, so I've actually got a package of Zyrtec at home from them. Okay. Software with licenses, so the software purchases focused on things like Microsoft software, where UCSD has a site license. Also, I'm assuming Microsoft would not object to research that finds out who's making money pirating Microsoft software. And we also bought fake Rolexes, which are very amusing. The payment was tracked using special gift cards. Normal gift cards that you buy at the supermarket, you cannot use for these purchases these days because they aren't allowed for overseas transactions due to federal regulations. You have to use a card that has a billing address associated with it. This is to prevent money laundering. So Chris Kanich got together with a company that does these for business use and was able to get gift cards on demand that used the valid mailing address of the actual researchers. So things were shipped to our houses. I was late in the process of buying, so I only have one thing shipped to me. We've also done the point of splitting out people who are only used for shipping after we have problems to see if they're blacklisting us. The card agreement allowed us to see the merchant information on the transaction, so we could see what banks were processing the payments. And the fulfillment part was tracked with disposable Gmail accounts, burner cell phones, shipping to residential addresses. You want to use real cell phones when you're doing this, not Skype numbers, because there are databases that recognize Skype numbers. So Skype and Google Voice are out for stuff like this. You have to use real cell phones. Because there are people who, these days, a lot of things that require a cell phone, a valid phone number to register, like Craigslist, etc. And there are databases of free phone numbers that are not allowed for this purpose. And those guys would use the same thing. So. And it's a heavy interactive order process. You get the automatic emails with the purchase number of your product and the thing going to the Gmail account.
None of you guys insist on a landline phone?
No, they don't. You can't do that these days. A lot of people don't have landlines. They just insist on real phone numbers. So we have Chris Kanich has a fair number of T-Mobile SIMs lying around. If you're getting burners, go with T-Mobile. For $100, you can get a burner number that's good for a year and has more airtime than you ever need. Email or phone verification on a lot of these orders. That a lot of the reason why the early orders were canceled was because we didn't have the infrastructure in place. As I said, they have real fraud problems. And this allowed us to see weak points in fulfillment. They're generally drop shipped from a foreign location on the product, so it's difficult to disrupt. We saw in cases where Chris, I think, got a package of Zyrtec that was hidden in a wallet. So this stuff is really designed to get through customs. The fake Rolexes, those all came from China. And several were genuine Jelena Shatinerand watches. If you Google for this phrase, you find out that this is a phrase that has been seen on the inside of fake Rolex watches for over 5 years. So this started out as some Chinese inadvertent mangling of Geneva, Switzerland in the Rolex logo. But at this point, it has to be a maker's mark because somebody has to have told the guy making them that, hey, you're doing this. Oh, and these days, if you're looking at Rolexes, fake Rolexes have hologram stickers on the back. Real Rolexes don't. Rolex has given up on the hologram stickers because the fakes are too good. The drugs were from India and elsewhere. The herbal stuff was sent from all over. The herbal stuff is in an interesting category because that stuff is actually fully legal under the FDA because the FDA has decided that as long as it's called natural, you can ship whatever poison you want at people. But so order delivery does not look like a weak point. But the payment processing was. During these purchases that went through, 95% of the test purchases cleared through just 3 banks. Only 3 banks. Bank of Azerbaijan, DB Nord subsidiary in Albania, and St. Kitts and Nevis in Anguilla, I believe. The interesting part is impact. all three of the banks terminated the merchants' accounts in the face of bad publicity within a couple of days. Unfortunately, what?
Within a couple of your paper release?
Yeah, well, not the paper release. The thing is they got their attention by a above-the-fold article on the page, on section 2 of the New York Times. That Markovic, yeah, that was the reporter, tried contacting all the banks, got nothing, ended up above the fold on the business section, and the banks dropped these guys like a hot potato.
These guys, specific merchants or all which merchants?
All the merchants that we tested that were going through these banks had their accounts suspended.
But how did the banks know these accounts? Did you provide their information before the New York Times article? Or?
Before the New York Times article, we tried contacting them and got nowhere. Markovic tried contacting them and got nowhere. The thing is they're actually honest about transaction type. So that there are severe penalties on Visa, et cetera, if you're dishonest. So if you're selling pirated software, it's usually done with the transaction type that says software. If you're doing pharmaceuticals, it's a transaction type that says pharmaceuticals. And so these were very easy to trace once the banks decided to care about it.
So you're talking about the 30 merchants, not the, but on your previous slide, you
The
had
30 affiliate
30
programs.
Cool. So there were 30 merchants who got canceled.
Yeah, well, about 28 or so. One went through Wells Fargo. They got canceled very quickly. So once you get the bank's attention, response is quick, and it costs a lot to set up a new merchant account. It costs days of time, etc. And so it's a matter of, if we can keep the pressure on the banks, this can really put pressure on the infrastructure.
So could you observe that they were down for a couple of days?
Yes. And in fact, it's been harder to order from some of these guys since.
Right.
Great job.
Yeah, that was my question. How did you verify these accounts were closed?
Well, the thing is we've continued to do purchases because those order numbers seemed kind of interesting. Chris noticed something interesting about the order numbers. We'd be doing multiple purchases from the given affiliate programs, and they seem to be going up pretty much linearly, pretty much monotonically. It seems kind of cool. It seems kind of odd. So 7 of the online pharmacies, representing a bigger than that percentage of the business, and 3 of the software vendors all used what looked like linearly increasing order numbers in all those emails that they sent us about your orders being shipped. Hey, wait a second. Let's just keep buying some stuff, see what happens. So down in San Diego, they do pairs of purchase to verify the sequential hypothesis. So get 2 people on 2 web browsers, go get all set up, get everything in, click purchase, click purchase. If the order numbers are truly linearly increasing, you should just see them one-off. And there's other testing that they did to verify the sequentiality hypothesis, that the order numbers were increasing sequentially. Once you do that, then you purchase again a week later, and a week later, and a week later, and you get a good estimate of the order volume.
I would generalize. From the point of security, serial numbers are a bad idea. There's a World War II story on that.
Yes. I think it's one of those classic blunders. I think it's number 3, just below land war in Asia and up against the Sicilian when death is on the line. Linearly increasing stuff is classic blunder number 3 at this point. So another 150 odd purchase attempts. Also, one of the things that's great about Kirill reading Russian is he reads the bad guys' forums. And the reason why he can read the bad guy forums is, well, these are public markets. When you have a market, you want, there's a trade-off between secrecy and size. That a secret market is easy to do operational security on, but not that productive because you don't have a lot of people involved. If you're more public, well, then it's easier for people who you don't want to read what you're doing, but it's a bigger market. And so one of these, GlavMed, had their affiliate support program forums publicly readable, and people would post order numbers for purposes of tracking packages. So, because affiliates have to worry about customers actually getting the product. And so the forums would post order numbers, and again, these seem to be linearly increasing. And all tested programs except RX Promotions used linearly increasing order numbers. RX Promotions, they increased it by 2. Probably they had a plus plus and then a plus plus in their code someplace. And you get really lovely lines, except there was this little glitch on GlavMed, which I can't remember, but it's discussed in the paper. But other than that, GlavMed, nice linearly increasing orders as a function of time. 33 drugs, 4RX, Eva. Where's Eva? Eva, my favorite thing. I get sick of looking at her, but it's still my favorite program. Nice, beautiful, linear increasing orders. Everything looks linear. And that makes it pretty easy, because now we can just draw a line and get the orders per day. So this is just simply a matter of counting and subtraction. So RX Promotions, about 450 orders a day. Eva's a big one. Eva's nearly 900 orders a day. Voila, we got order volume.
Why do you say the sequencing is a blunder here? I mean, do they care about other people knowing their volumes? What does that need to be secret?
One of the things that's a vulnerability is some of these sites using just order number, you can access order information. We did not do this because we considered this hacking, but this represents vulnerabilities in their website, because you can just buy a purchase and now see everything else that has been bought by every different user. So yes, these do represent real security vulnerabilities.
Even if it's not linear, it doesn't mean you couldn't just probe and get that.
Yeah. But it's really easy if it's linear, because you don't have a wide space to guess. There's no good CERT advisory protocol for online criminal pharmacies to report these bugs, so we didn't bother reporting it, but...
Do you have an understanding of the size of this order? So you think they're about $50, $80?
I'm going to get to that in a sec, actually. We do. Because we now just need what is technically known as a scientific wild-ass guess of revenue per order. And there's actually 3 different guesses per order that we did. The first one was from the Spamlytics paper, which suggested about $100 an order for online pharmacy. So we just used that. That's guess number 1. Guess number 2 is just always buy the cheapest item. What's the cheapest item on the site? And guess 3 is what we call basket inference. Try to understand what people normally buy and take the cheapest one of each one. For software, that was troll the torrent sites, figure out what torrents are seeded the most, and that's the relative popularity of the different software products. For Eva, it's interesting because this is serendipitous discovery number 2. Those 8080 things look kind of odd. What kind of systems were compromised? So I actually took it upon myself to go and try to contact every single site owner I could on all of those. Because any given Eva visit used a set of 5 image hosters. And seemed to randomly select which image mapped to which back-end hoster on any given proxies, and that was changed relatively slowly. So we tried to find out what sort of systems these were. I batted almost nothing. There were like random compromised web servers in Asia, a trial thing for a test website for a demo of a conference website that was live 2 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these forgotten computers out there. And almost all of these were forgotten. One was a VM that actually did reply to us. We got a capture of the VM, but we're unable to find the binary in question. Oh, darn. But one was at a university where we had colleagues who knew the IDS team. The IDS team was actually very interested by this because they didn't know that they had a system that was compromised for 5 days. Because what happened is the department or whatever who had the system, well, they noticed it was compromised and cleaned it up on their own and never told security. Fortunately, this IDS team, they run Bro. And like every Bro user on the planet, they are unapologetic data pack rats. Vern has traffic traces going back a decade at LBL. They were able to give us the HTTP log from the IDS for 5 days from this image hoster. So this was every HTTP request to this hoster, the image that was requested, and the refer URL in question. This allowed us to find the control program, or the control IP, which was a dead end. It was some random system, who knows where. This allowed us to find their control channel, which looks like a blob that we can't digest. And this allowed us to get an analytics window into 3,000 plus people who added stuff to their shopping cart on this website. Because what happens is the user who actually goes all the way through, they see the landing page. It gets a bunch of image gets from all these image hosters. Then it goes to the product page. Anything new, anything old on the product page, the browser gets it out of the cache. But anything new, it goes to these image hosters. And the product page often has this bit that has other stuff you might be interested in. And then when they click on a product to add it to the shopping cart page also has a bunch of images that go out. And then when they actually click to checkout, that goes to a different domain that's SSL'd with none of this bonkers image hosting. Oh well, this still gets us a huge amount of information. This allows us to see all the visitors which their visit used this logged image hoster. And during the monitored time, about 40% of our visits used this logged image hoster. So I think we saw about 40% of Eva's traffic. We saw when a product is viewed, because we see this. And because the refer URL, that tells us what product they viewed. And then we see when they add a product to the shopping cart. And because we know what product page we were on, we know what product got added to the shopping cart. The only thing we don't know is quantity, so we'll assume minimum. And we don't know if they actually purchased. So we will assume that the ratio of people adding stuff to the cart is the same ratio who finally go to checkout.
Seems like a business might have popped up, should have popped up by now around this for companies that would supply that as an analytics service. You know what I mean?
A few, we have seen online pharmacies that use Google Analytics.
Okay. It's similar in many ways
Yeah,
to that.
this was inadvertently using spammer analytics.
Spammer analytics, I like that.
Yeah.
Business there.
One of the things is Eva actually has two businesses, spam pharmacies and SEO pharmacies. We suspect that this was only spam pharmacies because if you're doing SEO, you don't use the same domain as your spam because your spam domains do get blacklisted. SEO, you want to last longer. And 45 of the top 50 domains were in our spam feeds. So this is almost certainly their spam side business.
I'm guessing that's SEO stands for search engine optimization? Sorry.
Yes, because that's the other way a lot of these pharmacy sites work is various tricks to bump their page rank up.
So 50 top domains, what does it?
Of the 50 top domains of landing pages, so the different landing pages visited, 45 were in our spam feed. So at least 45 are provably spam advertised versions. So this is what people browse for spam. And of course, the visitors come from all over the world. The obligatory pin map where the pins turn black.
Lots of visitors.
Lots of visitors.
For 5 days.
5 days. Lots of products added to the cart for 5 days. Almost all Western countries. 91% Western countries, US, Canada, EU, Australia, New Zealand, etc.
Isn't that approximately the percentage of world GDP that goes in these countries?
Probably.
And also, there must have something to do with language, right? If the page
Yes.
is English.
No, the pages aren't just in English. Eva has translation buttons. They are in a lot of European languages as well.
But not Chinese. That's
Not
why, like,
Chinese.
the-
There
a
is
lot
some
of
Chinese.
yellow pins, but the yellow
Yeah.
pins has a lot, then the drop to the red pins.
Yeah, but China
very few.
probably doesn't need this stuff. That they can probably are better served dealing local. The U.S. is 75% of the business. So this is actually greater than the share of GDP for the U.S. of the Western countries. We will see that U.S. healthcare policy matters. Because there are we categorize stuff into two categories. These are, by the way, Eva's own categories. We did not do this categorization. They kindly provided it for us. So you've got the lifestyle drugs, basically anything in the men's health category. These are significantly cheaper than Western purchases. You have Soma and Tramadol, which is most of the pain relief category. These are Schedule 4 controlled substances. So it's mild scheduling. So it's not like the Valiums or the oxycodones. It's easier to get a prescription for it, but it's not trivial. It's stuff that is watched.
Are they real? Did you guys test them?
We only ordered over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. They tested down in San Diego one of the shipments of the antihistamines. It had the active ingredient in the right quantity. We aren't sure about the inactive ingredient. We did not test and do not plan on testing at this time the Viagra, et cetera, et cetera.
But some other guys purchased and tested, and it had the right quantity.
Part of the worry is the inert ingredients, the other stuff, because you don't have the quality control that you do out of a Western drug plant. So we see some abuse potential items. Human growth hormone. There's a lot of human growth hormone. That's most of the general health is HGH.
So most of this is drugs, not necessarily bad, but they're not for the intended use.
They're not for the intended use. They are for lifestyle purposes.
And the other part of it is probably a big part about United States healthcare. Is not
Legitimate.
Right.
We see antibiotics. Antibiotics is right here. Antidepressants, heart and blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, diabetes medication.
Small numbers.
These add up percentage-wise. It's a long tail, but it matters. So in EU, Canada, 92% of the sales were in one of these lifestyle categories. In the US, only 67% of the stuff added to the shopping cart was in the lifestyle categories. A good 33% was stuff in the legitimate drug category. We suspect that the healthcare failure is due to the availability of prescriptions. We never checked overall pricing comparing Eva with Walmart or with drugstore.com, but I did check the price of amoxicillin. If you buy amoxicillin from Eva, you're spending twice as much and it takes vastly longer than it does to get it from drugstore.com, let alone from Walmart. This is one of the things that I think they have in their $10 generic. So you can just go down to Walmart, pluck down your $10. But in order to pluck down your $10, you need a prescription. Getting a prescription is $100 if you don't have health insurance. So yes, this is our social commentary part of our work.
So Nick, so do you feel that this whole process is the only illegal part is the compromising those observers? If not, that's the only illegal part. The rest is just like sort of like a business.
But it is, these are all stuff that, all the stuff without prescription that you're ordering online, that's illegal. A lot of the stuff is specifically for abusive purposes. That's illegal. The counterfeit software is a big business. I'm sure Microsoft doesn't think the OEM sites are legal.
But there is a prescription, well, you haven't examined it, but you can actually, there are sites that will actually have like a digital Turk kind of prescription where you can go and somebody in Miami who is a doctor writes the prescription.
Yeah, and those are legal.
Yeah, makes it legal.
This is not. These are not doing that gating.
Okay, but if we leave out this,
Yeah.
whether the goods are, I mean, imagine they're buying replicas and they know they're
Yeah.
replicas. Well, let's just go there just for goodies. So does the merchant or does the storefront owner know that this is spam generated traffic?
Yes, because
So
these.
he doesn't know if he knows he's not SEO or.
Yeah, these are affiliate programs. These are specifically paying people to advertise through black hat means. This is specifically criminal enterprise web stores.
Okay, so like that first page you showed, that one in Russian that said,
Yes.
somewhere, it was
Yes.
saying, hey, we're generating your spam leads for you.
No, you generate your
Oh,
spam
you
leads for
generate
us,
spam.
and we provide all this, and we split the revenue.
Here's how we turn your spam into.
Yeah.
So isn't the affiliate program is only the middle guy?
No, the affiliate program runs the storefront and handles all the back end stuff. So they handle the order fulfillment, they handle the payment, they handle all that stuff. So it's basically split in two. The spammer does drive the traffic.
So you're saying there's a bad guy who gets the spam, and then there's a bad guy who sells things that are quasi-legal.
Yes.
It's not the sales guy. For me, I want to sell this drugs. I can go to the affiliate saying, send traffic to me. I'll pay you.
No, that's not how the affiliate program works. The affiliate program is paying for the traffic and is the one that's doing the sales.
So was there any spam going through sort of legitimate affiliate programs like Amazon's, for example?
No, not this stuff. That stuff, if you get caught spamming for an Amazon affiliate program, they'll smash you. They don't like it.
In the pharma, there's lots of attention from the pharma industry and also law enforcement, and they're pretty quick at chasing those down. So
Yeah.
that's why.
So that's also why they're all in Russia.
I was just wondering if you can make money by spamming, I don't know, books on Amazon or random products on Amazon.
You can't give away books.
So I have a question about Stu about this legality.
Yeah.
You know, for some of the products in some of the countries are legal. Is that true?
Some of the products in some of the countries are legal, but they are not cost effective when they are legal. That we paid 5 times the market rate for our Zoloft compared with what we'd pay for down at Costco.
Well, but for example, Viagra, right? They're selling it for 1.5, and here it's like 16.
That's because of patent issues, and that stuff is illegal to import even if you had a prescription because of Pfizer's patents.
So who's actually breaking the law? Is it the purchaser or is it?
The storefront and the purchaser and the spammer. Basically, the purchase is illegal but not enforced for the purchaser. It's illegal but very hard to enforce for the storefront because these guys are all in Russia. And
Yes, so when I say illegal, I mean it's illegal under U.S. law
yes,
versus somebody in Russia.
yeah,
But you're saying that
There's
it's
no
still,
law in Russia anyway.
yeah.
but you're saying it's still more economical for those merchants to do it that way.
No, that's just the how they do it because, well, this is how they make money, and the net result is it's not that big a business. Eva's the biggest, and it's still only 2.4 million a month gross revenue, of which about half is going to the spammers. Some goes to the product that actually gets delivered and the cost of the infrastructure, and the rest goes to the ones running the affiliate program. Which means the takeaway is this is actually a pretty small business. The gross industry-wide business is 100 million a year, gross revenue. Not net, gross, which is Microsoft will happily kill a $100 million a year gross business for being totally useless. The Zune was way more than this when Microsoft killed it.
This is, I mean, compared with Microsoft, but these are maybe for these people. It's a,
Well, that's the thing. It's actually not that many players. 30 players, 30 affiliate programs is not all that many. It's a pretty small business, low barrier to entry. You just have to be in Russia and willing to break the law. And keep your head down because if you try to get too high profile, you might get into arguments with other ones. And currently the big drama is, if you're reading Krebs, is 2 of the big affiliate programs that used to be partners, they're not anymore. They've each been bribing the cops to go after the other, and right now the cops are going after both of them.
In Russia?
Yeah, in Russia.
How did you know about this?
Krebs does a lot of reporting on this. Brian Krebs is really fun. But the other thing is this is heavily driven by U.S. money. That on the pharma side, 3/4 is driven by U.S. money. So if we get the U.S. people to stop buying, or more precisely, get the banks to not do card-not-present pharmaceutical transactions to Azerbaijani banks, you'd cut off the money supply. And depending on the wild-ass guess technique that you use, you get numbers ranging from, like Eva, $1.3 to $2.7 million a month gross revenue. So it's not pocket change, but it's not all that much money given all the damage that was done. Because this represents 40% of the spam.
What was your contribution to these numbers?
I was the one who did the Eva Analytics.
Oh, the money you spent.
Oh, the money we only spent less than a couple $1,000s total. There was a lot of work in minimizing harm. So the amount of purchases we purchased to any given affiliate program was in the couple of $100 range. The products are all not used. They are in a locked room for the most part. They will be destroyed eventually. Everything was over-the-counter or herbal on the pharmaceuticals. All the software was stuff we had site licenses for. So there was a lot of harm reduction in constructing the experiment. Because one of the things we did not want to do is add a measurable volume to their traffic or to their purchases in the act of measuring them.
What we don't know is how big up this quasi-legal business is compared to pornography gambling.
Right.
On one side. And then the other side is you don't know how else the spammer or the botnet owner is generating revenue off from his bot.
Some of the other things is pay per install. Some of the other folks at Berkeley and UCSD are working on the pay per install side. We're also looking at other ways of calculating how much. Oh, I want a botnet. I'm not going to actually go out and compromise machines. I can pay somebody else to run my binary on the machines they compromise. So as a bot master, I don't even need to go out and compromise machines to send my spam. I just pay for them and send spam from them.
So there's a new middleware guy.
Yes.
So there must be more income in this business at $100 million a year if you're seeing, middlemen come up between
not necessarily
the bot herder and the affiliate program.
There may be some, but the other monetization channels have to be independent because pay per install is just a service for, and it's just sort of representing how the market has fragmented and specialized. The other thing is $100 million a year may not be much in the grand scheme of businesses, but if I, as a service vendor, can get 0.1% of that, $100,000 a year, and I'm living in Russia or India, etc., that's a lot of money for me. So you get a lot of this race to the bottom stuff going on, just simply because the barrier to entry is relatively low.
Do you have a number that says how many compromised machines generate the $100 million?
No. No, we don't.
Did you look at the SEO, spam, or other things to see if the merchant trail is leading to the same banks?
We haven't yet publicly, but we are, I believe some of the folks down at San Diego are.
And what other factors are you looking at? Social network spam or?
There's been a lot of work with Chris Greer has been looking at Twitter spam. Facebook's a bit harder because you can't get a good feed of spam from Facebook. Facebook's privacy policies are, if you're Facebook, they see everything and make your life a living hell. But if you're somebody else, they don't let you get at that information. So it's really hard to find Facebook spam.
Is there a way to estimate how much bigger this figure would be if you would include the search engine optimization traffic and maybe other things? Because these guys are selling not only via email spam, but other ways.
It's unclear. So for example, Eva, the figure may actually include their SEO revenue as well. Because if the order numbers are the same, if it's the same order space for their SEO as their spam, then it's capturing their SEO revenue as well. We don't know.
You mentioned paper install. About how long do you think such an install lasts? Does it take over the whole machine or just take over enough to send spam and go away?
Well, actually, if you look at Chris Greer's paper, I didn't do this paper install stuff, Chris Greer did. That actually what happens is you have droppers drop stuff that drop stuff that drop stuff. And so actually what will happen is the same machine will be sold to multiple individuals because the paid per install, you pay for basically being installed, but also other people's stuff gets installed too, including other pay per install clients for other pay per install networks. And it wouldn't surprise me if some black hat somewhere is doing arbitrage where it costs X dollars to pay per install for one, but I can get Y greater than X dollars for doing a pay per install to these other 2 or 3, which creates an arbitrage situation where my pay per install stuff is something that installs 3 other pay per installers on it. I'd bet that that happens because that's what I'd be doing if I was one of those black hats. So, in conclusion, actually, it's possible to understand the economic and technical infrastructure. Financial processing is a weak point, and the business is relatively small for the damage done. This is a great example for anybody writing an econ textbook on externalities, because spam doesn't hurt the spammers.
Did you disrupt? I mean, you got the 30 merchants shut down. How long were they disrupted?
They were disrupted for about a week. It takes a while to get new merchant accounts up, and there are people.
So you affected them by $2 million.
There are people who are, but on the other hand, they're also being affected by the Russian cops right now because, as I mentioned, the 2 biggest players are at each other's throats. It's quite amusing to read Krebs these days.
Did they mention you guys?
No.
Did they get their accounts back with the same banks? Or
No, different banks.
Do they know about you? I mean, do these affiliates?
They have your home address.
They have bigger problems right now with their internal infighting.
Wow. Any last questions? There's one more question here, Brian.
So, do you have a good estimate on exactly how much spam is costing the world? Because whenever I discuss spam with other people, most people don't think it's a problem anymore.
I have no clue. The problem is any figures that you see are done by anti-spam companies whose interest is in inflating the cost as much as possible because that's how they justify making money.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.